Hi, this is Hart. I have 3 5-inch by 7-inch pocket folders, and they're all slightly different. And I'm going to show you how to make each of these 3 pocket folders in a brief video, because one of my subscribers asked me if I could show them including the dimensions. So that's why I'm telling you this one is 5 by 7. Now you can take these dimensions and make them whatever you want. Just remember, you have to stay within the confines of your 12 by 12 paper. These 2 pieces are 2 inches wide. I need these scraps to give me a nice edge. That way I don't lose pocket size. If you don't want to do that, you can have a bead of glue go across the edge there. So the tools that I have today, besides the 12 by 12 paper and a couple of 2-inch scraps, I have a long ruler, and you just need your ruler to be 12 inches long because your paper is 12 inches long. I have a long pair of scissors, but you can have short scissors if that's what you're in the mood for. I have a glue stick. Today I have a chopstick. I always have something different, I suppose, when I'm scoring my paper for the folds. There's all different ways you can cut your paper. There's all different ways you can fold your paper. But this is the minimum tools from my perspective that you need. Ruler, scissors, glue, and paper. And something to score it with. I prefer not to score with my scissors, but you can. Sometimes I cut through the paper if my scissors are too sharp on the tip. Like these ones. Okay, let's just get to it. What's important to know is what your top side is and what your bottom side is. It'd be nice if you had double-sided paper, but in this case, I don't have double-sided paper. This is the first one we'll do. It has a tuck spot here and 2 pockets there. What you'll see is, because it's 5 inches here and 5 inches there, it goes 10 inches. So I need to score at 2 inches. So if you're using a scoreboard, then you score at 2 inches. If you're not using a scoreboard, then you do your marks. You put a line here to help you fold it over evenly. And then you'll also see on the bottom fold, this is at 5 inches because this is 7. 7 plus 5 is 12. So I'm already pre-done for you. I already put my marks on here. But you can use your cutting mat to help you get the marks, or you can just use your ruler. And so my score line goes down here. This is my 5-inch score line. Because it's 12 by 12, you can start on whichever side you want. Just make sure this side is up for you. Now that you're folded here, you want to make sure that you don't accidentally score your 2-inch line on the same parallel. You want it to be perpendicular. So now we're perpendicular, and I have my 2-inch score line marked here and here, and I am just going to run it from there to there. So I have these 2 lines. One, 5 inches, and then you should have about 2 inches of background white or whatever your inside of your paper is. And the other one I'll fold here is at 2 inches going the opposite direction. Okay, when I fold, oops, look at that. I didn't fold it directly on the line. That's okay. These things happen, it's not a big deal. There we go. Make sure, yep, that's on the line. So now as you'll see here, when I'm looking at this folder, it is white on the back. So I know that this side goes up first, and this side folds over second. Okay? Now, if I'm making a book, and I know that this is 10 inches wide, and you can do your measurement, 1 to 10. That's 10 inches wide, and my book is 5 inches. Then I just fold this in half and go up. So my first few folds are done. Okay? This is 10 inches wide now by 7 inches long. When folded in half, it's now 5 inches wide by 7 inches long. So there's a couple of things that are important for you. If I kept this up here like this and used these as pockets, this would start to bunch right here. So you'll see in this folder, I trim a little bit out and then make it pretty. Okay, so I trim it up and then give it a little Y. Let's do that before we tape anything down. So remember, I'm holding this up to where this is top. And I can draw these lines on for you just to make it easier to see them. So you're going to score at, let me make sure I have it in the right spots. Score at 5 inches. And you score at 10 inches. People learn in different ways. That's why you see me talking about it in different ways. Then when you turn your paper, you score at 7 inches because my paper is 7 inches tall. Okay? So this is what your paper should look like on your folds. You can see your creases better than I can. Then on this line where it's only one line going across horizontally, you fold it up. On this line, the one that's only 2 inches away, you fold it back. On this line, you fold it in. And you have the same exact thing. Now, when I open it up and I look here, I want to trim the excess out of this. So what I do is I fold this over, leaving my 2-inch strip on that side. And I just take my scissors and I'm trimming up to the fold. Just a little sliver. It doesn't have to be much. You're just taking the bulk out of it. Now you can see where that's at. And I left just a touch down at the bottom. Usually I try to trim it all the way up to the line. Now this isn't going to hold much. And I'll just pull that back all the way. This isn't going to hold much. That's why I have this to go around the edge so the stuff doesn't fall out of the pocket and it holds the pocket together. Now personally, I prefer the shape of the Y. So then what I do is I take it over here. There's a couple of different ways you can do this. You can just eyeball it, grab your scissors, and trim it this way. And all I'm doing is just trimming the extra bit here. You can see it like this. That extra bit is taken out like that. And this is the bit that was inside, right there. If that makes any sense. We all learn differently. That's why you see me going slow. And I know I've already said that once. Sorry about that. Now, I don't need this excess bulk right here unless I wanted to make a pencil pocket, which I could. Because if you wanted to keep it there, you can make a little pencil pocket, just like that. But I really don't feel like it. So I am going to trim this excess right here off. So I open this up, I look at my line, and I want to cut, not on this side of the line, but on this side of the line. Just slightly. And I'm almost cutting on the line. Now, for aesthetic reasons, some people choose to cut in at an angle. On this one, I'm choosing to cut it just above the fold line. And now you can see that I cut just on the other side of this fold line and just on the other side of this fold line, right here. So now I have this look. If I wanted to, I could take this single piece of paper and use it on both sides, and you would see that it blends in almost completely. You would hardly notice it. But today I prefer to do it this way. So I'm going to take my 2 inches by 2 inches and fold it in half. Score it at the 1 inch mark. And fold it in half. You can cut it before you can fold it. You can fold it before you cut it. It doesn't really matter. And it doesn't even have to be a perfect fold. Obviously, mine's not a perfect fold. That's okay. Honestly, most of the time I just wing it anyway. Who is going to go and see that it's a millimeter off on either side? Nobody's going to sit and measure that, and you don't see both sides. Now, what I do care about is how long this is. So if this is 7 inches and this fold up here is 5 inches, I want to make sure that my cut is at 5 inches. You can do this in all different kinds of ways. But for now, I'm going to use an X-Acto knife at the 5 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And cut that off. And I know I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So I really only need to trim off 2 inches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'll trim it at the 2. Oops. Gold, don't move it, woman. Don't move it. Okay. And I have a pretty little flower at 2 inches. We might be able to use that later, we might not, I don't know. Now, for aesthetic purposes, I like to have them trimmed. So your fold line is the edge you don't want to trim away from, okay? So you take your fold line as your widest point and you cut towards the open end at an angle. Does that make sense? So that's the widest point and you cut away. And do the same, just nip it off a little bit. Widest point and cut away. Widest point and cut away. Now, your pieces should look like this now. And they don't have to be exactly the same because usually if you're making a book, it's not even perfect on the edges there. So now I have these ready to go and they're both the perfect size for my 5 inches. You can see it comes across right there and that's fine too. And now if you chose to, you can make it at an angle, but it will make your pocket slightly smaller if you do it at an angle. This is where I pull out my glue stick for this side. I'm going to go ahead and finish this pocket. I like the glue stick because it doesn't leave marks long term. And because you can move it just a little bit. If you wanted to, on either one of the sides, and you wanted to use double-sided stick tape, it could be a tuck spot right there too, if you chose to do that. So on this side, I also just use a glue stick to cover it, and I usually line my thumb up to the bottom to get where I want it there. So I'll use the glue stick for that. Now, because the glue stick takes a minute to dry, instead of using the glue stick on this part, I'm just going to use my double-sided stick tape. That way I can show you and test the finished pocket. But if you're doing a glue stick, you want to have a small bead of the glue on the top and bottom of this pocket. And then remember, this is the 7-inch side. So let's test our pocket. No, with something that actually fits in it. Here, I'll just do it this way. Test our pocket. So this one's fine here. There's a pocket there. There's a pocket here and a pocket there, and it's completed. You can embellish it however you want. But if you are gonna mark up the edges or ink the edges, make sure you do that before you glue everything down. So here's your measurements. This piece that I glued on is 2 inches wide, folded in half by 5 inches tall. This side is 5 inches plus 5 inches, so it's 10 inches at the fold line. This is, because it's 12 by 12 paper, this gives you a remainder of 2 inches to give you that tuck spot. And this fold line down here was at 5 inches. Way too many numbers. For those of you who learn differently, let's move on to the next one. And we will just, let's just do it very similar, actually, because I think I described it enough, but we're going to go faster this time. Okay? Make sure this is closed because I'm a clumsy one. So this one is also 10 inches across and 7 inches tall, which means I'm going to have a similar fold. It is very, very similar. The only difference on this one is that I took my 2 inches on the left side, which means it'll be over here. So that means I give myself a mark, losing my green pen. I give myself a mark at the 2-inch line. My favorite way to do that is actually to just move the paper over, use my back grid to give myself a mark at that 2-inch line, because that's my fold line. This is much thicker paper, so this might be, make sure. There we go, 2-inch line. This only works on the 2-inch and the 10-inch, giving you the 12 inches. This only works if your paper is perfectly 12 by 12 square. Sometimes they're not always like that. So if you find that it's off slightly, just make sure that at your folded point it is perfectly 10 inches and leave your excess on the 2-inch side. That'll make sense to those of you who work with 12 by 12 paper that isn't always 12 by 12. All right, now we're going to go to our 5-inch line right here. And we put a mark at 5 inches here on this side, and a mark at 5 inches here on that side. And when I say 5 inches, I mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up from the bottom. Now, I just need to score it. Mark to mark. Nice hefty score. Use whatever your score tool is. Mark to mark. Nice hefty score. Very similar. Now you can see why it's similar. So I fold it up. Find my mark. And run it across. Then on this one, here's my fold at the 2 inches. I'm going to fold this one back just so it's easier for me to see the marks and line up my little green mark to the crease that I've made. You can see, doesn't this look very similar to the other one? Now I'm going to fold this in half. And you can score it if you want to, but I just fold it. And that's how I have 5 inches here, 5 inches there, and then my 2-inch fold. Okay. So I'm just going to take my 2-inch side and trim it on either side. Now you can see that this folds up like that. I don't need this piece, as you can see. I could use it just as the piece that folds around here. So if I chose to, I could just trim off 1 inch from here to here. But I want to do it exactly like this. See, I never do anything the same. But I wanted to use this piece. Oh, look at that. I did do that fold. Ah, that's funny. Yeah, I see what I did there. Okay, I'm looking at, because each time I make a pocket, it's not always the same. And I see that I did decide to do a single cut. On this one, I don't need this bottom left-hand corner. So here's my creases. Just in case you can't see the creases and you're on a different kind of screen, I'm going to draw in where my creases are. So that one's at 5 inches. This one's at 5 inches. And this one is at 2 inches. So if you're on a scoreboard, you score at 2 inches, 7 inches. You turn your page and you score at 7 inches. Okay? And I can do it this way. So this is 2 inches wide. This is 5 inches. This is 5 inches. Okay? If I turn it, this is 7 inches. This is 5 inches. Now, I usually go in just a little bit right here and trim this out like I did on the last one. And you'll notice I didn't give it a Y like I usually do. So I'm going to do that. Let's just trim this piece out. That is really thick paper. And I want to go all the way to my cut line. There we go. See, I have a nice trim right there. If I trimmed it wider, I could use this on the other side. Here. I could use this here if I trimmed it wider. But I decided I wanted to use scraps, remember? So I have a scrap over here that I'm going to use. And it's going to be 5 inches wide. Because this right here is 5 inches. So I need this to be 5 inches also. So I just find my 5-inch mark on the top and bottom. And what I did with this one, first, let me trim off my 5 inches. you'll see I wanted to save my peacock, so I gave it a pointed shape. So let me fold this in half first. So it's just 2 inches folded in half. But I want to go from one corner, which can be either corner, it doesn't really matter, but I want to go from one corner and cut diagonally across the piece of paper to the other corner. And my point in that is one of them is going to look like this, like a triangle. And I want this one to be the triangle side, right here. Just because I think that's a nice clean look and you still get the full use of the pocket. And because I wanted something different. I always want something different. So just go on my scrap paper. I really want the corners down. And this one I definitely recommend the glue stick because it's hard to get that top corner without the glue stick. I like to use an old card to smooth it out. You can even use your old card to crease your edges, like a bone folder. All right, now how do we do this pocket? Well, I decided to leave this without the Y, but this piece of paper is useless to me right now. So I am going to trim it off on this side of the green line. The green line being the fold line. I fold this up, and the reason I want it past the fold line is so it doesn't obstruct this fold. Now, I don't really need this to go all the way to the top. That's why you saw me cut this at an angle, and then I use this as a tuck spot on the other side. So let's do that. Let's just cut this at an angle. And right there, like this. And it folds over. Now, it's hard for you to see. Let me get a scrap piece of paper, and I can do an edge for you. So you can see it better. You can do this with an ink pad or whatever you want. And you know what? I don't want to square this off. I want to have it come in and match a little bit. So I just trimmed off a little bit. And now you can see how it folds over this line on the inside here. This leaves you with this piece right here, and that's where your tuck spot comes from. You don't need to put glue on the side that's folded over, but you do need to put glue at the top. And you can use a bead of glue, wet glue, you can use your glue stick. For me personally, I do like to use, on tuck spots, I really like to use the tape. So my line for this is right there. And I just folded it over to make sure. That's where I needed the double-sided stick tape. And I just fold this over. This one, I can use glue, or, like I said before, and I can never do anything exactly the same twice, but what we can do is we can turn this into a little angled tuck spot. And you can use a bead of glue for this. You can use just your glue stick on the edge like that. I just want to give you instant results. And show you that this is now a tuck spot. So you have here, here, there's nothing on the back, and then there's a tuck right here. And this little tuck's actually kind of cute because I like the way the angle comes down. Easy to decorate these things, and later I will probably find a way to cover it up or just leave it as it is. The third and final folder pocket. Oh yeah, so I run a nonprofit foundation, and once a month, every second Saturday of the month, restated, on the second Saturday, once a month, I hold a live fundraising auction. So for the third pocket, we're going to do the easiest one. This one is just a simple folder. And in fact, if your paper is 10 inches by 10 inches, that'll work on cutting this folder as well. Although the benefit of doing a 12 by 12 is it gives you the scraps you need to do the side pockets. But let me show you something really quick. This pocket is like the other ones, 5 inches across by 7 inches tall. These two pieces are each, this piece right here is a separate piece, and that is 5 inches tall. It doesn't have to be, it could only be 3 inches tall by 2 inches wide. 2 inches wide folded in half. Okay, so let's do this one rather quick. And this is, first, you want your paper to be 10 inches by 10 inches. So let's make our paper 10 inches by 10 inches. And while I'm making my paper 10 inches by 10 inches, it is actually important to know that when you're making your pockets, there is an upside to most papers, right? A top and a bottom. The ones that have a top and a bottom, I'll use this scrap as an example. If I was to make this a pocket and I flipped it over, my words would be upside down on the inside. So take that into consideration when you're making a pocket. Okay, so here's my 10 inches. Now, I know that my book is only 7 inches tall, so I am going to do this with numbers for you. Okay, so I'll make a mark. I'm just using my cutting mat in the background to find my 7-inch line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I could have done it counting the other way because it's only 7 plus 3 is my 10 inches. Like that. And so this is 7 inches, and this is 3 inches. That's where this fold is. Okay, so I'm just going to fold it this way so I can see my green line, make it nice and easy for me. See the green line all the way across. And that's how I know where my fold line is. Okay, now because my book is 5 inches wide, you'll see like this. This is the exact width, which means I just fold this in half. We don't need anything special for that. We don't even need a special line for that, right? I don't need to draw that on there for you unless you use a scoreboard, and I'll just do it right here for you just because. So this is 5 inches, and this is 5 inches. Little line right there. Actually, my line is precisely right there. Okay? Then when I fold it up, what I want is my classic V-fold. Okay? So when I fold it in half, if I did it this way, you'd see white. So I want to fold it in half this way. That way you know you have it folded the right way. You can't see white on either side. You find your crease line. My crease line is right there. And I'm just going to trim about 1/2 inch in or more, whatever angle I feel like, up to my crease line, which is right there. Okay, so if you can see the crease, you don't see anything there. There's the crease line, and that's where my cut starts. That leaves you with this on the inside. Okay. This one is so easy. Now you grab, and you can use your scrap pieces that you just trimmed off. Personally, I like a contrasting color. So this one is 6 inches wide. Let's show you the differences in how you can do that. This is 5 inches wide. Aesthetically, is that pleasing to you? I don't know. You can choose however you want it to be aesthetically pleasing for you. For this one, I'm going to make this 3 inches wide. So I'm just going to, that doesn't look like, oh, it is 3 inches. Okay. So I'm just going to rip this. We're going rudimentary today because that's what I feel like doing. Okay, now I have 2 inches by 3 inches on both sides. And like I said, you could have used your scrap, so you could have made it from 1/12 by 12. I'm just folding this in half. Like that. And I fold this in half. This allows me to close my pocket without losing excess pocket space. But when I do this, you see how I don't personally aesthetically like it. You could leave it like this, but personally, I like to trim off this side and this side. And you're asking me, well, which way did you angle it? The answer is the crease inwards to the open fold. So my crease is down at the bottom, and I have the open fold at the top, and I go from out to in, like a Christmas tree with a crease at the bottom. Okay, get rid of my scraps, grab some glue, and finish this off. And what you have now, as soon as I glue these down, is 3 fabulous pocket folders that are 5 inches by 7 inches, which would be a very easy size if you're making a book, you're making little organizational folders. It's just a very easy size to work with. Personally, I love them for junk journals. Just glue it down on both sides and it's done. I use the purple glue so it's easier for you guys to see it, and it's not so boring to just watch me do the white. But the other glues that are fabulous to work with in the glue stick, I think it's called Elmer's Extreme or something like that. That one's awesome. All right, here we go. Hot stuff. We have another folder. And these two match. Well, thank you for joining me. And hopefully these 3 styles of folders that are super similar, with this one being the easiest, are fun to make and even more fun to embellish when you get ready to embellish them at the end. These are the original ones. And love and hugs. Take care. Bye.